In March 2025, Dr. Jasmin Barman-Aksözen presented her Science Slam talk at the British Porphyria Association's meeting in Cardiff, Wales. This session was so well received that we asked if we could share it via the Global Porphyria Advocacy Coalition's communications channels. We hope you enjoy this beautifully presented and illustrated talk from Dr. Jasmin Barman-Aksözen. Thank you.
So I'm very happy to present hemoglobin and family, sunshine, drugs, and flower power. And this is a Science Slam presentation by hemoglobin and Jasmin Barman-Aksözen. It was one day in the beginning of my PhD, and I was late again. Everybody has left the lab. I was alone and wanting to finish my last experiment. I was looking through the microscope and then I saw something. I thought I saw a movement. Then I looked again and indeed somebody was waving at me. And then he said, "Hi, I'm hemoglobin. It's so nice to finally meet you." I was really shocked because I thought, oh my God, I lost my mind. This is crazy science. But then I thought, you know what? The damage is already done. So what's the harm in talking a little bit to this cute guy? And then he said, you know what? Most people think I'm just a red, beautiful, symmetrical substance. But you know what? I am a VIM, a very important molecule. It's me distributing the oxygen in the blood. And in the liver, it's me protecting this vital organ from toxins and drugs. And also, in every single cell, I have so many different functions. And this is also why every cell is taking care to always have enough heme around. Then I realized, okay, he's talking about heme like in hemoglobin, which makes the blood red. But heme is also a very important part of the hemoproteins, of which around 15% can be found in the liver. But then heme said, yeah, but I also want you to get to know my family. This is chlorophyll. And here we have C.O. Bellarmine, but he's better known under his stage name, vitamin B12. And then I asked, who's that guy here? That's Grandpa bilirubin. Now it occurred to me, it's all these ring-structured molecules with this metal inside, vitamin B12, heme, and chlorophyll. And here we have bilirubin. That's just a linear porphyrin without the metal. But then he said, yeah, you know what? You can go back to your science in the morning. Now I need you to get to know my family a little bit better. This is chlorophyll, and she loves the sunlight. When she's sunbathing, she's kind of absorbing so much energy. Yeah, but only the red and blue light. I do not care for the invisible, aggressive UV. Isn't that fantastic? Plants are actually powered by porphyrins. And this is even something we can understand in experiments. So the plants, they use the green pigment, the chlorophyll, for photosynthesis. And they use the sunlight for doing that, but only the blue and the red wavelengths. And you can even make that visible yourself by just isolating the chlorophyll. And then you take a blue light source, and what happens is that you get this beautiful pink fluorescence. And that's the energy the plant uses for photosynthesis. Now you might say, where do I get a blue light source? And I say, the next best supermarket, not a big investment. Yeah, but I do not have a lab to kind of isolate the chlorophyll. And say, the good thing is you do not need a lab. Just use nail polish remover and use the one with acetone. You just kind of rip the green leaves in small pieces, then you soak it with the nail polish remover, and already the green pigments start to come out. And those pictures, they have been taken at a kids program at German patient organizations meetings. So it's perfectly possible to do it at home. And I said, yeah, thank you for this very nice introduction. But then Hem said, yeah, you know what? I need you to do something. Because there's always a black sheep in every family. In ours, it's called Porphyria. You know, he's a lazy guy and he does not really care for others. But to be honest, I wouldn't care so much about that. The worst part is, if he gets into the spotlight, he thinks he's enlightened. And that's usually not very healthy. It turns him into a radical, makes him a nasty arsonist. And he's getting on everybody's nerves. I said, you're talking about the erythropoietic porphyrias, where people deal with phototoxicity. I didn't like the guy, but then Hem said, you know, he's not happy either. He often feels isolated and very alone. And then I asked him, yeah, can't you just use some sunscreen? But then Hem said, remember, chlorophyll, it's not the UV, it's the visible light, and sunscreen does not work in the visible spectrum. Yeah, that's the problem. Like chlorophyll, protoporphyrin absorbs the energy of the visible light range, and if you illuminate it with a blue light source, you get the very same pink fluorescence. And whoever thinks that blood of patients with erythropoietic porphyrias might glow, you're right. These are red blood cells from a patient with protoporphyria. But the problem is you cannot really show that in a patient meeting or at home. But what you can do is to buy a white and a brown egg. You already have the light source, right? Now illuminate it, and what you can see is that the white egg is turning into blue, but the brown egg, it will develop the same beautiful pink fluorescence, because the brown color in the brown egg, that's actually protoporphyrin. How cool, isn't it? But unfortunately, cool doesn't help the patients, right? But since 10 years, there is a solution though. It protects against the inflammation. It effectively prevents conflicts. And it's very good in keeping Pret in check. And with that, even Pret can enjoy the white, the red and the blue light, and feeling that the sun is warm. Then I said, yeah, great, the problem is solved. Or is it? Because Hem said, yeah, well, not quite. You know, we have different functions in the body, and one of them is protecting the liver. And sometimes it's just too much. I'm very good in my job, but with all of that, even I can't deal. Usually that's not a problem because there is backup coming. But sometimes there are those hooligans showing up. Okay, but you know what? The next day, they don't feel afraid either. What I have is intense pain severe enough to require hospital admission, pain in the abdomen, nausea, vomiting and or constipation, hypertension, tachycardia, hyponatremia, peripheral neuropathy, urinary retention, seizures, confusion, psychosis. Therefore, everybody tries to get rid of them. He's talking about the acute porphyrias with the acute attacks, which can be life-threatening. And you have to think about in your patient when you see some of those symptoms and red urine. That should be the last red flag for testing for an acute porphyria. And then Hem said, luckily there is external help available. So Hem incoming, which is a very good thing, but only if they know that they're needed, right? And this is why awareness is so important. Think porphyria, go out of the lab, gather some people, make everybody aware to think porphyria if you see one of those symptoms. Intense pain, severe enough to require hospital admission, pain in the abdomen, nausea, vomiting and or constipation, hypertension, tachycardia, hyponatremia, peripheral neuropathy, urinary retention, seizures, confusion, psychosis, and in addition, pain or blisters, red urine. Thank you. And then he was really overwhelmed. You are true VIPs, very important patient advocates. And with that, Hem was satisfied that we are going to find every single person with porphyria, and he thanks you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmin, for this engaging Science Slam talk and for introducing us to hemoglobin and friends, and for all the work you do for the global porphyria community.